This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation Pop Experience. That's a cool name, isn't it? Kind of cool. I don't know. I think so. Hey, welcome back to Pop Goes the Couch here on that very feed I just mentioned. I am Andy Atherton, one of your hosts, co-host, moderator, whatever you want to call me. We are discussing Cobra Kai Season 3. This is part 2 of our 4-part series since Netflix went ahead and, put all the episodes up at one time. Everybody, watches it as they can, so that's why we're doing this at like kind of a special pace, because unlike some of the other shows we're covering or have covered that come out weekly, we are going to do this over 4 parts. Hopefully you all listened to episode 1, which was, it was a bit of a long episode, but we did recap for first 2 seasons as well as the season premiere of season 3. So we're going to get to episodes 2, 3, and 4 tonight with the usual crew. Let's get them in here and let's get the discussion underway. First off, Shawn Kidd. Hey, Shawn, how are you?
Hey, good evening, Andy. Good to be here after last week's 7-hour and 45-minute podcast. I look forward to jumping into season 3 and doing episode 2 through 4 tonight.
It's only going to be about 5 hours tonight, so we're good.
It's all good. I like the long pods.
Yeah. Well, it depends on who you ask about that. Yep. All right. Else bringing in is Scott Shifflett. Hey, Scott, how are you?
I'm doing great, Andy. I can't top what Shawn just said, so I'm here. I'm here.
All right, good. It often leaves people speechless, like that guy, I'll tell you. And rounding out our crew, the Tim Capel. Tim, how are you, man?
The Tim Capel, wow. Yeah, looking forward to diving into this new season and a somewhat more restrained podcast in length, at least, if not content, this time out.
Yes, we're only talking about 3 episodes tonight, not 21. This is we get a little overambitious here at Place to Be Nation, but it's all good. We have a great time. We hope everybody had a great time listening to it. So tonight we're talking about these 3 episodes. The first one is called Nature vs. Nurture. This is episode number 2, and this episode jumped around a lot, gave us a lot of backstory on some characters. It starts off in the San Fernando Valley in 1965. 2 local jocks pull up at the diner and go inside. One jock, David, tells his girlfriend, Betsy, that they don't show their rivals any mercy because they're the opponent. Betsy smiles at the busboy serving their table and tells the busboy Crease to move on and calls him a loser. The 2 jocks joke about how Crease's mother killed himself. That's why he's a freak. When Betsy objects, David tells her she too can it. I don't know who wrote this. An army recruiter Marshall sees them, comes over and tells them that they could use them in Vietnam. He gives David a pamphlet and says that he could learn discipline in the army. Crease says that they'll think about it and then laughs and tosses the pamphlet away. Actually, it was Reese. Too many confusing names in this episode. The Crease boy picks up, considers it, and the manager tells him to get back to work. David trips Crease as he goes by, and everyone laughs at Crease except Betsy. So we'll start with you, Shawn. Shawn, what do you think of this brief view into young Crease? This is the first time we're seeing this.
If you wanted to simplify names, you could have just said Biff and McFly, because it was very similar Back to the Future kind of esque. And actually, when I first walked into the diner, I actually thought that Crease might have been the other guy, and then you found out that he's the McFly, the other guy's the Biff. You just learn a whole lot of backstory in like 2 minutes. His mother committed suicide. He's obviously bullied. You see where the recruiter comes into play, so you learn a lot of backstory about Crease in a very short amount of time. I thought it was a kind of cool way to open, and I like how it seems like that song Wooly Bully is always the song that kind of goes into these backstories, because it reminded me of Splash a little bit before he fell into water. That was the same song that was playing. So I thought it was kind of a cool throwback kind of story synopsis in the first 2 minutes. I really enjoyed it.
Scott, what do you think of this flashback at the top of this episode?
I think it's good to find out Crease's backstory, but personally, I don't want to know his backstory. I just know he's a piece of shit, and I don't want to feel any sympathy for him for when he gets taken down. So I don't want it. I just want him to see him get his ass whooped.
Well, sometimes it's good to see how a villain becomes a villain, I think. I don't think you're going to garner that much sympathy for him. I mean, you kind of know where he kind of is now in terms of the storyline that we're watching, and that he, it's all about the heel turn basically. Tim, what do you think of this flashback?
Yeah, that's kind of a good jumping off point. If I had one reservation coming out of last season into this one, is just that Kreese felt like kind of just a cartoonish, straight up villain, which it's fine to have someone who is a pure villain that you don't feel any sympathy for, but this is the type of show that's not really interested in one-dimensional characters. So even if someone is painted as the villain, it's nice to get their origin story. It's nice to flesh them out and to just see where they're coming from, even if they're going to remain like the bad guy of the series. So I wasn't necessarily feeling any sympathy for him. I got what they were going for and thought it was pretty effective.
Yeah, I honestly didn't feel any sympathy. I just thought it was like one asshole taking on another asshole. Like,
I mean, yes, you do sympathize with this kid in 1965 who's getting shat on by a bunch of assholes in this diner, but that's basically saying we've come a long way from there to the point that Kreese is at today. It's sort of painting a contrast more than I think it is humanizing the Kreese of season 3 modern day.
And I agree. I what Tim said, I like the backstory because it kind of tells us how he started out, and then we're going to see probably long term how he ends up being the dickhead that he is. But he obviously didn't start that way. Something turned him that way, and I like having a backstory on my villains. It's kind of like the best comic books. The villain always has a good backstory, so I'm with Tim on that.
Yeah, look at Michael Corleone. He's the army guy. He's everything. Mm-hmm. And he makes that slow turn. And I think Kreese has, not saying he turns into, whatever, but, he, is, nobody really starts off pure evil. They have to get there somehow.
I love the guardrail on Michael Corleone, the Kreese.
Yes. All right. So we get back to the present, and Kreese tells the students that life isn't always fair and weakness is unacceptable. He tells them that the school fight was an embarrassment because they lost the battle. Kreese tells them that they won't lose again, and what their opponent did to Miguel, they should do to all of them. He assures his students that the attack won't go unanswered, and they'll show no mercy or weakness. Hawk is the first to agree, and Kreese has the other students join in. At the hospital, Carmen shows Miguel the gifts that his friends and the LaRussos sent him. Miguel asks where Johnny is. Johnny is sleeping as Daniel drive, and they search for Robbie. Daniel has juice and Advil for Johnny's hangover and figures that their mutual friend can point them in the right direction. He stops at a rehab center, Malibu County Country Recovery, where people are practicing yoga out in the front yard, and the two men go inside. Daniel explains that it's one of the best rehabs in the country, and the inside, the hostess assumes Johnny is checking in. Daniel plays along, and the two men continue in. They find Johnny's ex-wife, Shannon, there, and she hugs Daniel when he calls her by her name. Shannon and Johnny greet each other, and she admits that she's surprised that Daniel and Johnny are together. She says that her life coach advised her not to leave and look for Robbie. Johnny isn't impressed, and his ex-wife insists that rehab has done wonders for her. Johnny insists that he doesn't need a rehab vacation, and they argue until Daniel interrupts. Shannon says that when Robbie gets in trouble, he hangs out with his friends. Daniel says that he knows where they are. So, Scott, so now we're back in the present, and we see kind of the I guess best frenemies together looking for and on the run Robbie. So what do you think of this pit stop to see Shannon?
As I said last episode, I love when LaRusso and Johnny team up together. It's just perfect to me. It always makes me laugh. And with him showing up to rehab and LaRusso's like, yeah, it's like the best in the country. It's like, how much money does the LaRussos have? They're bankrolling this lady to go to this damn rehab. Like, I want to be adopted by the LaRussos. Damn. But I did like Johnny Lawrence had some great one-liners when they asked him if he's checking in. He goes, "No, I'm not a quitter," and it popped me pretty big. He just makes me laugh with this. And Shannon really is a shit mom. She was taking those LaRusso mom lessons to heart with not wanting to go out and look for her kid who is running from the law. And it did make me laugh when she was like, he's with those two friends, the one that looks like Chris Brown and the guy with the weird mustache, which that's how I describe them when I see them, is like, oh, the dude looks like Chris Brown. So I related to it. I felt like I was right in the scene.
Yeah. Tim, what do you think of this part with the rehab?
Yeah, I'll back that up. It's nice always cool seeing LaRusso and Johnny teaming up as unlikely allies, and to have it so early in the season. Like, they've sort of made a tradition of that at least once per season, I feel like. And right off the bat here in episode 2, off and running with these two at each other's throat and having adventures together at the same time. I love it.
Yeah, it's like a buddy cop movie almost, kind of vibe to them. Shawn, what do you think of the stop at the rehab?
I'll just, the same thing the other guy said. I have really grown to like the LaRusso and Johnny pairing up together. That always pops me to what Scott said. The one thing you did mention, the Kreese speech coming out of the kind of backstory, I thought was pretty timely based on some events we might have seen this week in terms of, I don't want to get political or anything, but he kind of may or may not encourage chaos for his folks, so I thought that was an interesting kind of timely thing. And then the other note I made about that is, Miguel, how many of us would wake up from a coma and the first thing we want to see is our sensei? Did anybody else think they'd have that issue? So those are the only other things I'd have to add to that.
Yeah. Well, remember, he's the father that Miguel doesn't have.
Sure, but he says, where's sensei? Not father, where's Johnny? Where's sensei? But anyway.
Well, perhaps if you'd spent the entirety of your coma fighting your subconscious in a karate battle, it's going to be on your mind. That is a very good point. That is a good point. It's like, when you first wake up and you have a really vivid dream and you can recall it so well, and it kind of fades throughout the day unless you make a point to write it down, but it's going to be at the forefront of your mind. So he's having this karate battle subconsciously in his coma dreams, I guess. So calls to mind associations, people.
You made me a believer. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah. You just have to go back to, how does karate relate to what I'm seeing right now? And it answers pretty much any question you would have.
Correct.
At the Cobra Kai dojo, Kreese tells the students that he has a treat for them. He takes out a mouse, believe it was, and then he hands it to Bert, then reveals a tank with a snake inside, tells Bert that he can feed the snake. Kreese motions Bert over, opens top of the tank. Bert says he can't, and Kreese takes the mouse away and says that he understands. He asks if anyone else objects, and when several students do, Kreese yells at them and Bert to get out. Once they leave, Bert puts the gerbil in a tank, and the snake eats it. Later, Kreese smokes a cigar in his office. Hawk comes in and says that he isn't sad to see his friends go. Hawk points out that they were already down several students, and Kreese says that it's addition by subtraction. When Hawk asks what the plan is, saying that they might get some new students with the Miyagi-Do shutting down, Kreese says that they will in due time. First, they're going to need to strengthen their core and get a new champion with Miguel out, someone with no fear and no mercy. Hawk has a determined look on his face. We see Tori now for the first time. Tori's at home making a sandwich for her mother and has her brother take it to her. As he does, Tori takes out the garbage and they find the landlord working on the electrical box. When Tori asks for a delay on paying the rent, he says he doesn't care. Tori says he knows about the fight and that Tori got expelled. And that tells her that if she had a man instead, then she wouldn't have to pay rent. Tori grabs his arm, twists it, and threatens to break his wrist. He asks what her probation officer would say, and she lets him go. He says that she should consider what he said and might see her tonight, and he laughs and leaves. Tori kicks a nearby drainpipe in frustration. Daniel and Johnny then go to the prison where Robbie's friends are. A guard brings them over, and Daniel asks them where Robbie is. Johnny takes more of a hostile approach, and they say that they're not scared of him. Daniel gets tough, and they apologize, telling Johnny that Daniel is the one who kicked his ass. Johnny punches one of them, and the guard claims he didn't see it. Johnny hits him again, and Daniel tells him to stop. The two cons say that they used to scam people at Tech Town, and Robbie might be there. Daniel says that they better be telling the truth or he send Johnny back alone. So the buddy cop duo, gets there and starts interrogating these two guys. Plus, we kind of learn, the shit life that Tori has. Tim, what do you think of this part of the episode where we get some backstory on Tori?
First of all, I will say that when we saw Tori in her home preparing a meal, I instantly thought that was Samantha LaRusso. So again, my similar looking white girl confusion persists. I don't know. I don't know if I have some kind of face blindness when it comes to them or what, but that that continues to be a problem for me, apparently, exclusively. But yeah, we get a little backstory with her, like, and that's fine because she was one of the characters who was like pretty prominent in season 2, but maybe the least fleshed out. So I like that we're learning a little bit more about her life. Again, we don't want any one-dimensional characters, so we're going to do some development here. And that tends to always be a good thing with this show. Similarly with Kreese, and the whole situation with the mouse and the snake, I noticed he was sure to tell this kid to name the mouse or gerbil, whatever it was, before depositing it, just for that extra touch of dickishness, right? And that's just telling us that even though we're learning a little bit more about his backstory at the same time, that doesn't mean that we are going to warm up to him at all. Like they're just maintaining his status, that sadistic, evil mastermind. So good job there. We haven't seen a thaw in Kreese by any means. We're just learning a little bit more about him and Tori at the same time. So we'll see how their paths intersect.
And what about the interrogation at the prison?
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. Not really much to remark on there. Just keeping those plot developments in motion, really.
All right, Shawn, what do you think of these few scenes?
So going along with Tim, the whole Kreese with the mouse and feeding it to the snake. Again, and Scott brought up earlier, hey, I don't want to know his backstory, but you know what? I'm okay with his backstory, but to everyone's point, he's still a dick. No one feels anything for him. He's still cold. Makes the poor kid try to feed a mouse to the snake. He's a classic villain Kreese. He's still a dickhead. And again, kind of go the same route with Tori, where they're trying to make you feel some sympathy to her, flesh her out. You got the scumbag, typical landlord, trying to get in her pants. So trying to give her a little sympathy there, but at the end of the day, we all know we're still going to probably hate her. And actually, for the jailhouse scene, I actually quite enjoyed it. I like the fact that they respected Daniel, but they disrespected Johnny, and then Johnny got pissed off and started whacking him, and the guard ignored him. I think it was nice comic relief. To me, it was almost like one of those classic 80s kind of team-ups like Lethal Weapon, where you have good cop, bad cop. So you have Glover and Mel Gibson, and Mel Gibson would be the one that would punch these guys in the face. But I actually enjoyed it. I like a lot of the 80s throwbacks they're doing in these. That's probably why I like it so much.
All right. Scott, what do you think?
Well, those kids, how dumb are these kids? Like, Kreese brings a little rat out, or a little mouse, whatever it was, a mouse, and was like, hey, want to see it? The name of the place is Cobra Kai. What the hell do you think's going to happen to it? I was like, this thing's about to be dinner for the snake. So, and then the kids get kicked out, but they kicked out like the two 12-year-olds that were like smart, guided their way up to like the 9th or 10th grade because they looked like they were 11 years old. So it's like nothing to lose there. And then Tori, the landlord, was about to statutory rape what he was trying to commit right there. If you're supposed to believe these kids are 16 years old, with like, oh, you come to my room tonight, you won't have to worry about rent. Jesus Christ. But it's nice to see her backstory with like, it had been hinted at like with her mom in season 2, where her mom was like bringing food home to feed her and her sibling, and she got fired for it. So, we learned a little bit more, but we learned more that she's sick now. The jailhouse scene was great with, like how Shawn said, so with just them being scared of LaRusso, but not scared of Johnny, and then Johnny bitch smacking them.
Oh, okay. So at the hospital, the doctor checks Miguel's reflexes as Carmen looks on. Carmen serves Miguel some of the food that she had been making. Miguel discovers that he can't feel his feet. Miguel wonders if he can ever do karate again, and the doctor tells him to take it one day at a time. He then goes to talk to Carmen privately. As they talk in the hallway, Miguel sees Carmen break into tears through the observation window. Then Daniel and Johnny drive back into town, and Johnny says that he'll do the talking with Robbie when they find him. Amanda calls Daniel and says who is Johnny is with him. Daniel says that he has a new lead on Robbie, and Johnny mentions that they went to a prison and smacked them around. Daniel insisted they didn't smack anybody around, and they did the good cop, bad cop. Amanda points out that neither of them are cops and says that she's against the entire operation. She tells Daniel to be careful. He agrees. Tori then checks the money she has in a separate scene and knock at the door. She sends her brother to the other room and then answers the door and finds Kreese there. Tori's mother calls her at her daughter, and Tori goes outside, closes the door behind her. She says that she's not going to go back to the dojo because she has to pay rent and take care of her family. Kreese says she can fight back, and Tori tells her that's what got her in her current troubles. The girl blames herself what happened to Miguel, and she has to stay out of trouble so she doesn't go to juvie. Kreese says that his mother was also sick once, and James, James the landlord, comes up. Tori says that this place isn't charming, but if Kreese's mother got better, ask her if Kreese's mother got better. He then says she didn't, and he didn't understand at the time what kind of sickness his mother had. Tori says that she doesn't have money for dues, much less rent. Kreese says that he'll pay for it, and the other students aren't born fighters like she is. She thanks him, but says she'll have to go to work. He glances over at the landlord. Once goes inside, Kreese turns and sees him. So, Shawn, what do you think of this part where we see Miguel's mom get the prognosis, where it doesn't look good from what we could tell, and then we have an interaction with Kreese and Tori?
So the Miguel thing, you kind of had to have that situation. It looks bleak through the window. The mom's crying again, kind of a trope. But the one thing that popped me was kind of similar where we talked about earlier with Miguel, asking where's his sensei. So he's worried about his sensei, and here he's more worried about karate than he is if he ever walks again. So again, put it in the context that Tim said, I guess you got to remember karate revolves around the whole world here. So you got to kind of put it with a grain of salt. But that seemed kind of silly. I know if I were never going to walk again, I doubt karate would be the first thing on my mind, but I also know what the show is. Again, the Johnny and Daniel team up. I love the Tango and Cash reference in the car. I love Johnny being in awe of Bluetooth, not trying to figure out how the car's talking. That was very, very funny. And I loved Amanda in this, where she's just making fun of him. That no cop situation comment you made was great. And I love Kreese with the landlord, and the backstory with Tori makes sense. They're trying to give you sympathy with her, even though we know we're going to end up hating her because she's one of the big villains, but kind of bonding her and Kreese together. And the final thing I'll say is I really like Kreese going up to the landlord, and they did like a really cool switch of the scene from him about to cut the finger to them cutting a hot dog, which I thought was really, really cool. So I thought there was just kind of a nice little blend of different story points going on in a very short amount of time.
All right. Scott, what do you think of these scenes here with the buddy cop and the whole Kreese-Tori interaction here?
Just give me a full episode of LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence fighting crime together. I loved it. With the Tori stuff, it was, I hate to say it, but it was nice to see Kreese come to her aid. But, I feel he may use this as like blackmail to her later on. It's like, well, I helped you out, pay your bills for your house. Well, for your apartment, so you got to be indebted to me in Cobra Kai if she ever, down the road if she tries to break away. And yeah, like Shawn said with Kreese threatening the landlord, he thought he was going to we're going to see a finger, but nope, just cutting of a hot dog. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, well, Kreese may be a bad guy, but he's not that bad in that way. Tim, what do you think of these scenes here?
Yeah, I'm glad that we could solve, or at least temporarily kick the can on Tori's landlord situation, again, using karate instead of sex crimes. Definitely an upgrade there. And totally put me down for an entire episode of, honestly, Daniel and Johnny just driving around and getting phone calls from Amanda just shitting on them nonstop. It's just fantastic. Yeah, I'm all in.
Amanda LaRussa, the voice of reason in the show, if there is one.
Well, I like how Johnny started to moronically mansplain the whole Tango and Cash reference to her, and she's just like, oh, yep, sure, put me in my place.
Yes. So we get another flashback back to the diner, and Kreese is taking out the garbage. He sees David in the parking lot, telling Betsy never to make eyes at Kreese again. When David slaps Betsy, Kreese yells at him to stop and goes over. David is unimpressed and tells Kreese he's nuts if he thinks he has a shot, and being nuts runs in the family. The two jocks attack Kreese, and Kreese breaks free. They finally throw him in some trash cans, and Kreese recovers and takes them both down. Betsy asks if he's okay, and he says that he's had worse, and asks if she needs a lift. Back to the present, Daniel and Johnny stop for gas. Daniel gets a text from Amanda saying that Miguel woke up. Robbie pulls into the gas station in a stolen minivan to call over to the driver. He immediately gets back in the minivan, drives off. Johnny insists that driving after him in Daniel's car. Daniel reluctantly goes along, and Johnny drives through red light following the minivan. When Johnny Daniel tells Johnny to slow down, he ignores him. The driver finally pulls up in a garage and goes in. Johnny goes in on foot despite Daniel's objections, and Daniel reluctantly goes inside after him. He wants to leave and call the cops. 2 workers and the driver approach them while a 4th worker hovers in the background. When Daniel says that they just want to know what happened to Robbie, Johnny's had enough of the negotiations and punches the driver, and then the 4th man gets into it, and the fight breaks out. Daniel and Johnny knock out their opponents, each with their own style of fighting. They charge at Daniel, and Johnny knocks the driver out with a tool. Together, they take out the last thug, and Johnny tackles the driver as he tries to run off, demands to know where Robbie is. Johnny says he doesn't know where he is. Daniel pulls Johnny away. The 2 fight while the driver runs off, and they finally stop, and Daniel complains that he shouldn't have known better than to team up with a lunatic. The 2 men go out, and Johnny tells Daniel not to come in and ask him for help. They argue about teaching, and Daniel admits that he failed. He points out that Robbie might have had a little too much Johnny in him to do anything with, and Johnny drives off in the minivan saying that he has somewhere to be. All right, so Scott, what do you think of, we got a lot of buddy cop action here with the team of, Lawrence and LaRusso.
Just when you think they're on the same page, it falls apart. Like, we get so close, like, as Tim mentioned, like, we get these episodes where they're together. We saw it in the first season when they discovered that Robbie is at the LaRusso's house, and we find out the backstory. We see it with the second season with they go on the double date and then it falls apart when Robbie and Sam go back to Johnny's house, and it falls apart here where Johnny Lawrence is the hothead and just runs in with no plan and starts throwing punches and will ask questions later. And I did like the team up. It was nice to see them, about time. We usually have to wait a little bit for some karate action, but it's nice to see them using karate in the real world, which I thought they would, if it was a real world, they would all just beat the shit out of those 2 and kill them probably. But whatever, I'll suspend it for this because we gotta get our shit in, pal. But it was good, and then Johnny Lawrence goes to, and you see who he really truly cares about more is Miguel more than Robbie, because I think LaRusso has taken the father figure role for Robbie so far, and Miguel obviously looks up to Johnny as his father figure, and that's why he said he had a place to go and he had to go back and see Miguel.
Mm-hmm. Tim, what do you think of the action here?
Great action scene, some really cool fight choreography too. Seeing these 2 go at it with a room full of goons, basically, and they take out the last guy, total elimination, which I definitely marked out for. I want to see more tag team finishers from these 2 going forward. I want to bust out a heart attack or a doomsday device on somebody. I think just up the ante, keep it coming.
If they do the Super Bulldog from the Steiner Brothers, it's the best show ever.
Oh,
man. I don't know how they'll do it, but if they somehow organically, quote unquote, set it up, it'll be amazing.
Oh my God. Yes.
All right, Sean, what are your thoughts on the fight scene?
I'm with Scott, or just give me a bunch of episodes of just Lawrence and LaRusso, or give me a Netflix Lawrence and LaRusso team up movie once this show's over, because they're amazing together. I love the fight. I love I popped me big when they started doing the car chase and Kickstart My Heart. My Motley Crue started playing, fired me up, and it was just good old fashioned 80s goodness with the car chase, and then the chop shop fight. I loved every single minute of this. I thought it was cool, and I also liked the crease thing. Again, reminded me of Back to the Future with McFly punching Biff, and he's getting a woman, so he gets his Lorraine. So very similar kind of story there with Kreese.
Yeah. All right. So after they leave, Daniel gets to his car, calls someone, tells the caller that Johnny isn't with them, and then drives to the caller's location. Kreese then goes to the laundry room where the landlord's checking the machines and asks to speak to him about Tori. He figures that Tori owes him some money. Kreese says that he's just looking out for her well-being. Kreese grabs James's arm, puts his finger in a cigar cutter, says that he's going to make a little arrangement. At the hospital, Miguel is eating his meal, and Johnny comes in. He makes small talk, and Miguel tells the doctor that he told his mom he might not walk again. Johnny doesn't believe that. He says that they don't know how strong he is. Miguel said he showed mercy and was crippled. Johnny tells me that he doesn't know. The boy tells Johnny that he did everything he told him, and he ended up like that. He then yells at Johnny to get out. Johnny reluctantly goes back to the rehab center. Robbie meets with Shannon. She says that they'll figure it out, and Daniel arrives. Shannon goes over and says that Robbie saying he's going to leave town, and she needs Daniel to help him. Daniel says that he will, and they'll fix it. And he goes over to Robbie. Robbie apologizes to Daniel for having to clean up his mess. He asks if Sam is okay. Daniel tells him that she and the rest are worried about him, including Johnny. He apologizes to Robbie for letting him down, and what he said to him the last time was terrible. He tells him that he learns from his mistakes and offers help. As Daniel says that, he talked to a lawyer about Robbie's situation. The cops arrive. Daniel explains that he told him Robbie would turn himself in. He tries to run. The cops grab him, and Daniel tells him that he'll visit him every day. As the cops get away, Robbie tells him not to bother visiting him. So, Scott, so we get Robbie finally. What do you think of the way they brought Robbie in, so to speak?
I mean, what did he think? Did he think he was just going to live on the lam for the rest of his life? Or, I'm pretty sure it's attempted murder is the charge because he kicked this dude off the second floor. Sorry, I popped in my head the way they always show Miguel falling, and it always makes me laugh. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know why he's so upset. It's you should probably turn yourself in. It's going to make this a whole lot easier for itself. You're not just going to get away with it. But he tried and obviously failed, and it paints LaRusso in the bad light. And then when you see Johnny and Miguel, his priorities aren't straight. He's I showed mercy and I shouldn't have. And it's you probably shouldn't be doing karate if it leads to you this is one of the negative things where you might not walk again and everything. But it was these kids are just out of control.
Yeah, not exactly the best promotional video for wanting to learn the karate. Tim, what do you think of this turn of events here?
These kids are out of control, and we need to institute karate footloose, because that is the source of and seemingly solution to all problems, as I said earlier, in life, in this universe. Yeah, I mean, Scott makes a good point about, what are you going to do? Just keep running, be brought in, apparently brought up on charges. We're not sure of what. It is funny how they never make mention of the seriousness of some of just the violence that takes place. I mean, yeah, you could potentially be looking at attempted murder, which I don't think they're actually going to charge him with, but I mean, at least something, right? I don't. So I've got a few potentially hot takes in this realm, but I'll just start off by saying I'm sorry, I don't know anyone's names. Robbie's actor, whoever that actor is, it's not the greatest actor in the world. Probably is acting wise, probably the weakest on this show. But fortunately, they don't tend to ask too much of him. He doesn't really have to show a lot of range.
He just has to brood a lot.
He just kind of has to brood, which he's pretty good at. He's pretty good at that. So he can pull that off, which makes this scene work probably better than it should, because that is within his repertoire. So yeah, we're tugging at those heartstrings, and I like that Daniel did kind of get a chance to apologize to him, because they left things on a very sour note, and that really truly wasn't Robbie's fault. What happened the last go round that led to their falling out. So at least they've kind of somewhat buried the hatchet. I know Robbie's going to continue to brood, but whatever, that's to be expected. At least we know that Daniel is being the adult in the situation.
All right, Shawn, what do you think of them getting their man, so to speak?
So the Miguel scene, this is what I call Miguel's Emmy nomination scene, where he gets all angry. But that'll win an Emmy because it's about karate, but he gets very angry at his sensei. As far as the Robbie scene, I guess this is kind of setting up where Robbie feels betrayed by the man he trusted the most. And by the way, Robbie obviously had to find time for a really bad haircut too. So clearly on the lam, got a bad haircut. Now he's angry at his mentor, and it sets up a whole nother dynamic of conflict between student and teacher. So that's the only other thing I'll add to what everybody else said.
All right. So to close this episode, they go back to the Cobra Kai dojo. Kreese tells the students that they're only as strong as their weakest links. Now they're one unit with one purpose. Tori comes in wearing a gi, and Kreese welcomes her back. She says the issue she was having got worked out. Kreese tells her to fall in, which she does. He then runs the students through their fighting exercises. We go back to the past. You see Kreese taking the bus to basic training. Betty kisses him goodbye and says she'll wait for him. Kreese promises that he'll come back to her a hero. Back to the present. Kreese tells the students that there is no good or bad, just weak or strong, and now it's time to show their strength. If they do, Kreese promises they'll be unstoppable. So, Tim, what do you think of the close of this episode?
Got me pumped for the next one. Did what it was supposed to do.
Exactly.
Yep.
Sean?
I like the ending. I like Tori coming back in. The other question I have is, what parents are still letting kids do karate, the karate footloose at this point after what happened at the school? They still have a bunch of students, so I assume parents are still paying for this, but I guess we suspend disbelief that parents will let their kids commit acts of brutality against other individuals and possibly go to jail. So I guess that's okay. But I also like the ending with Kreese's story and then his little speech towards the end of that story. Like you talked about, there's no good, there's no bad, only weak and strong. I thought it was really good shit to end with. I enjoyed it.
All right. And Scott, what do you think of the close of this episode?
Nothing really to add just from what Sean and Tim said. But I will say the show does a great job of oh, am I going to watch the next episode? Then the last 2 minutes hit and shit just starts rolling. And you're like, guess I'm locked in for another 35, 40 minutes. Sorry, gang. Sorry, world. I'm not doing anything else, but I got to watch the next episode. It just does a great job of this, which is the point.
Right.
But yeah.
All right, cool. That brings us to episode number 2, Nature versus Nurture. All right, so season 3, episode 3 is called Now You're Gonna Pay. Basically, lots of stuff happens in here with the ramifications of the end of the last season in terms of how it's going to affect Daniel and Amanda and their business, how it's going to affect everybody actually around. It's really shaking this community. So we start off in church. Tommy is talking to his congregation about forgiveness. A drunken Johnny comes in and says that God won't forgive them. And the speaker, Johnny's high school friend Bobby, tries to make excuses. Johnny gets in his face. Bobby sweep kicks him to the floor. Back in juvie, Robbie is sitting at a table reading. 3 of the residents come in and harass him. A fourth, actually, resident, and they tell him to get away from their table. The other guy tries to ignore them, and the leader yells at him, catching Robbie's attention. He then slams the resident's head down on the table, and Robbie gets up. When the leader asks him what he's looking at, Robbie doesn't say anything. The bullies then sit down when their victim walks off, and the guard comes in to tell Robbie that he has a call. Robbie takes the phone, but hangs up when he realizes that it's Daniel. At the dealership, Daniel tells Amanda that Robbie won't take his calls. She said that Daniel helped Robbie, and eventually Robbie will come around. She admits that she came around on Louie, and tells Daniel that sales are still slow. That's what they need to focus on. Tom Cole comes in and points out their lack of customers. Anush is now with Cole, working for him. Cole said that he's there as a friend. He tells Daniel that he wants to buy the dealership from them. All right, so we kind of get the beginning here. We learn, that Daniel and Amanda are having some issues with their business, and of course their main rival is coming to buy them. So Scott, what do you think of Tommy returns, which was a welcome sight for me. We see Robbie, learning what the hierarchy is, I guess, in juvie, and now the vulture is circling the carcass that is LaRussa Autobody.
I enjoy having Louis back because he's a nice little comic relief as the moron cousin that's just there because of nepotism. So I enjoy him. It was nice, like you said, it was nice seeing Tommy back and Johnny, who has hit rock bottom after no one wants to be around him. Everyone's blaming him for what's going on, and he's trying to tell the congregation of the stuff that Tommy and Johnny used to do. He's like, remember those moms that we met in Arizona? And then he sweeps the leg and takes him out on the floor, which I enjoyed. We're starting to see more of Robbie. He's been pretty much MIA besides the last couple of minutes of each episode, the first and second episode. So we're seeing more with him and getting some progression, and they're doing Robbie's going to have to take on the bullies and juvie storyline. So we're going with that. And Tom Cole, it's nice to see him because he was like he's been beefing with Daniel since season 1, where he had that commercial where he was like making fun of Daniel, saying he was a patriot and everything, and giving them a cactus so they don't use water, and we're in a drought and everything. So it's a nice comeback with him. He's trying to buy LaRusso Automotive, because as we've been told, no one wants to go around Daniel LaRusso Automotive after his karate dojo started a brawl at the local high school, which I only thought would get some play at the local high school. Didn't realize this was like a citywide thing, but it's nice to see there's some consequences of people's actions.
Yeah. Well, Tom Cole had a point, though. I mean, you know how you water a bonsai tree? Because that was a big thing back in the late 80s, early 90s. You actually have to submerge it in water, I believe. And then you have to water it for a while, but use a lot of water. So, Tim, what do you think of the beginning of this episode?
I will say I kind of rolled my eyes at the whole Robbie and Juvie getting hassled by the other inmates thing. I don't know. I feel like we need some kind of moratorium or like statute of limitations between prison drama shit. Like it always feels very samey and very like played out.
Unless it's on Oz.
I was going to say, like, after 6 years of Oz, which was like, we're coming up on, like, this is a show that ended almost 20 years ago now. Like, I still, like, I've kind of had my fill of it. Yeah. And it's just one of those, like, where this is going. Like, every time they do something like this, any show does something like this. But that's kind of whatever. Yeah, like we've got some car dealership drama too, which is it feels like something again out of like a classic soap. So I'm always here for soap opera antics, and like I know we shouldn't be all that invested in this survival of Daniel's car dealership or whatever, but it's going to take him back to Japan, so that is a nice little hook. So yeah, I like the directions we're now spreading out in as the season progresses.
Sean, what do you think of this opening?
I agree 100% with Tim on the kind of jail bully trope, so I won't say much more about that. I won't say much more about Johnny crashing the church, except for I love the line when he tells his friend, your Wayne can still get tang, even though he's a preacher. That made me laugh a little bit. And unlike Scott, I am not a fan of Louis. I find him very annoying, and I hate him, and I wish he would leave the show. But I also do like I like the car tycoon wanting to buy the car dealership, because in the Valley, nobody wants to buy a car from a bully. And I think it was Scott that said it. We thought this was like kind of a localized high school thing, but apparently a big karate fight at a local school can ruin your multi-million-dollar business. So, so I'm like Tim. I like the soap opera stuff, so I'm good with it.
Well, you say that like it's just anything. This is karate we're talking about.
Well, I apologize, but yes, it is karate, but I have a hard time believing karate. Again, I got to suspend disbelief. I apologize, but karate is ruining Daniel's multi-million-dollar car business.
This is the karate cinematic universe.
Yes.
The KCU.
Yes, the KCU.
All right. So at the hospital, Sam visits Miguel. Asks how he is. He says out-of-state doctor is coming to work on him, but he's not getting his hope up, and the surgery will cost a lot of money. Miguel notices the scars on Amanda's arm. Miguel apologizes for Tori attacking Sam, that she's not impressed by Miguel's explanation for Tori having a rough life, and gives him a card. She said that she's sorry for all of it. Hawk comes in and sees Sam, and she excuses herself. As she goes, Hawk tells her that she has some nerve coming in there. Sam says she just wants to help. Hawk ignores her and goes in to greet Miguel. Back at the church, Tommy asks Johnny what his rant was all about. Tommy says that Johnny can't blame himself for what Robbie did, and Johnny thanks him for putting a good word in for him at his probation hearing for the fight at the parking garage. Tommy insists that he's not a priest and says that Johnny's a promise to be a better person. Johnny says that he tried and he feels like God is punishing him. He then tells Johnny that he needs to be there for Miguel and Robbie, and they both need him. Bobby offers to get help get Johnny into the juvie to see Robbie. Johnny agrees. As for Miguel, Bobby offers to have the church make a nominal donation towards the surgery. He then suggests that Johnny turn to his stepfather, Sid, but Johnny doesn't want to grovel. He says that he'll figure something out and thanks Bobby for his help. Cole then talks to Daniel and Amanda privately, and they point out that his offer isn't that much. He points out nobody wants to do business with a bully. Daniel says that he isn't a bully and they have plenty of customers. Cole knows better and tells Daniel to get something for the dealership before it's worth nothing. Louis and Anush wait outside. Louis is surprised that Anush is working for Cole. They talk about where they're living and yada, yada, yada. Anush tells Louis that Cole has signed an exclusive deal with the Japanese manufacturers and that convinced him to cut ties with Daniel. Daniel then storms out, and Cole tells Cole to get out and that they'll never sell to him. Cole isn't impressed and leaves with Anush. Louis tells Daniel and Amanda that they have to talk. So we get a little more soul searching here with Johnny turning to Tom. Trying to find my place. Bobby. I know Bobby. Yeah. And we see a little interaction with Sam and Hawk, as well as we get to learn what Cole is really up to. So Tim, what do you think of this part?
First of all, I appreciate you yada-yadaing through the rival car dealer conflict. Some of that, very welcome. Yeah, so I heard a fan theory. I think maybe a lot of us might have that the specialist, the surgeon, whoever that was going to, basically offer this miracle cure to Miguel, who sadly is never going to walk again, right? That was going to be Allie. Like, that was how they were going to work her back into this universe. And I don't know that I'd even call it like a red herring. It's not like the show ever really hinted that they were going to do that, but a lot of fans seem to think that that's what they were going to do. And I'm just glad that they didn't, because that just sort of felt like too easy, or just too coincidental maybe. So I'm glad they didn't go that route. They're not going to go that route. But I like Miguel as sort of the linchpin in all of these relationships. Like, because of karate, we have a lot of broken friendships now within the various younger cast. But Miguel is still kind of tight with Hawk, who I've always thought of as kind of his lieutenant in Cobra Kai. And he's, kind of reconnected with Sam, even though the Hawk and Sam are going to totally be at odds. So that just is fueling some really good drama. And all the better by the fact that, Miguel is in this situation where he's very limited in his degree of control over this situation. Like, he really can't mitigate any of the fallout as things continue to spiral between these rival dojos.
All right. Shawn, what do you think of this part?
So Sam visit kind of went the way you thought it would go. I for a moment there, I kind of thought she was kind of a stuck-up bitch when Miguel was trying to defend Tori in her situation, and Sam totally no-sold it. So when Hawk came in calling her out on her bullshit, I kind of liked that, because Sam LaRusso is starting to become like the most unsympathetic character in this whole show for me, but we'll talk about that more later. And I also do like the adult moments in this show, particularly like when Johnny's with people who try to make him better. He's going to screw up even though they try to make him better, and then you start to actually feel like maybe he'll turn the corner, but then he screws it up anyway. And then I also like the element where they're going to say, hey, the clergy can help you see Robbie. So it kind of sets up that interaction between Robbie and his father for the first time since Robbie went to jail. So, yeah, I'm fine with it.
All right. Scott?
Yeah, I have a weird relationship with Sam LaRusso. Like, there's times when I think she's annoying. There's other times I feel bad for her, especially as we get forward with the season. But right now, I feel like how Shawn and Tim were saying, she's kind of whiny with I'm like, this is her fault. If she hadn't kissed Miguel, he wouldn't have taken that leap of faith off the top of the rail. So, I blame her for all this, but she's like, your girlfriend tried to stab me, and it was like, well, yeah, I mean, they did take it a little too far, but in the KCU, nothing's off limits. So, and I do like seeing like how you guys said it was like soap opera with like Tom Cole trying to buy the dealership because no one wants to deal with them, and then like the Louis and Anush stuff, which I don't think they needed to say where the hell they were living. They should have just got to the point with Anush saying that Cole signed an exclusive deal, and it's obvious that Cole doesn't like Anoush because he calls him a different name every time. So that's like a thing to think of. But yeah, and like with Hawk, I just don't like him. He's just a piece of shit. So as we'll see more and more, like he has go away heat with me. So
no, not X-Pac heat.
Yeah, that's what it is.
See, I feel like that way about Sam.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, I don't know. Hawk always seems to be, only second best. He was kind of Dimitri's second now, in terms of nerddom, I guess, and now he seems to be like second. Like he can't just be the lead dog.
Yeah, that I think is his character, and I think that's what I respond to because I think it's an interesting. It's something that's interesting to explore, like within a character in an ensemble like this.
Yeah. All right. So the Miyagi-Do, they hold a car wash fundraiser for Miguel, which Sam supervises. Moon's there and brought the school cheerleaders. A bunch of male students drive up, get a male car washer instead of the cheerleaders they had hoped for. The Cobra Kai students drive up on their motorcycles, all Sunday motorcycles, seeing the car wash. Hawk is among them. He says that they won't get away from using Miguel as their quote-unquote poster child. Back at his apartment, Johnny spruces up and goes for an interview on a new job. He claims that he has extensive internet experience and says he'll do whatever the boss needs him to do so he can get money to pay for Miguel's surgery. He then asks him about his prior address. He says it's just a formality. Johnny goes on to say he was arrested for public intoxication, assault and battery, willful destruction of public property, and assaulting a minor. The boss then rejects him for the job, and Johnny realizes that he's gone through all the help wanted ads. Back over at Juvie, Robbie hears a news report about the car wash. Sam saying that they've already raised over $1,000. She said that Robbie putting Miguel in the hospital was an accident. Then the bullies come over and ask Robbie if Sam is his girl. When the leader insults Sam, Robbie tells him to shut his mouth. The leader invites Robbie to take a shot at him as the other two back him up. When Robbie says that karate is about self-defense, the bullies attack him. They outnumber him and beat him down and kick him. The guards then send everyone back to their bunks in lockdown. Johnny then goes to the pawn shop and tries to sell his things. The owner doesn't want any of it when he offers the 93 car. The owner says it's worthless, tells Johnny to find someone who has something valuable. All right, so we get the fundraiser. We have, Johnny's trying to get his shit together. And, Robbie sees what's going on the outside. So, Sean, what do you think of these parts here?
A lot of stereotypical stuff. I thought the Johnny job interview was very, very funny, and it just goes to show that outside of karate, we bring up how he is with technology. He's also really clueless about life. Like, you go to a job interview and he shared as much as he did, like he felt comfortable in the interview, just tells you how much Johnny really doesn't know about life. And unless there's karate in his life, he really doesn't know anything. So it's pretty sad. The stereotypical bully stuff in the prison and getting beat up, you kind of knew where that was going to go. And then, of course, the pawn shop stuff. So just kind of a lot of loserdom for Johnny in this and stereotypical jail stuff. So a lot of filler kind of in this, I think, in this section.
Yeah. Scott, what do you think?
And sometimes it feels like they left Johnny in 1984 and like Encino Man, they unthawed him for this and just how he has no... I know, that's a deep cut.
It's true.
How he has like extensive internet experience, and then like when he tries to pawn everything off, he's like the internet doesn't work, and he's like, were you using the battery? And you look and he's like, yeah, I wasn't using the battery.
No, I said you said it was Wi-Fi.
It was wireless.
Wireless, yeah.
Just how he's just a moron, and then like you knew Robbie was gonna get his ass whooped by the bullies at first. You just got to start that with him getting his ass kicked, and Sam's hosting, and to truly push the fact that Cobra Kai are heels now. They got somehow these 16-year-old kids have brand new motorcycles. I don't know about you guys. I was rolling around in a 95 Grand Prix at 16 years old. So nowhere is close. Yeah. So these kids, I know they live in the valley where it's supposed to be a bunch of rich kids, but after like starting a fight and getting suspended from school, I doubt my parents would be like springing for a motorcycle. They'd be springing for an ass whooping. That's what they'd be springing for.
and how tropey is the car wash with the cheerleaders? Have you seen that in any other movies?
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yep.
I had an 82 Nissan Sentra. Jeez. That's what I was going on. All right, Tim, what do you think of this section?
1990 Buick Skylark for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's a great car, actually. So the juvie bullshit goes the way that we knew that was going to go. Glad we didn't beat around the bush with that, I guess. The car wash, yep, is totally one of those just high school stereotypical things that these shows do. I continue to really just grate at Sam, much like Shawn. I can't take her character. I know she went through this trauma and she's we're going to be sort of exploring the ramifications of that later on, not to get ahead of ourselves, which that's a nice touch, but because I already don't like her so much that it's hard to find sympathy. But and with her floating scars,
yes,
is also distracting.
And is it me, or does it seem like she's been stress eating too? She looks a little.
Well, I don't know.
Jesus, Shawn.
The level of Shawn's hate for Samantha goes deep.
Sorry,
she looks very healthy. It's nice. It's nice to see realistic. Anyway,
but they all look like the Tim anyway.
Okay.
What are we doing? I have no idea what I'm talking about. I think I'm good. Yeah, we'll just stop.
All right. So Daniel goes out to lunch with Anush and comes back and discovers that there are no customers in his dealership, pours a drink and tells Louie and Amanda that he was telling the truth and Cole's going to be exclusive with the Japanese manufacturer by the end of the month. She warns Daniel that if they lose the dealership, other manufacturers will pull out. She says that they're going to have to sell to Cole if they want to come out with anything. Daniel talks about how he wanted his own car as a kid, and Miyagi gave him the 47 Ford, and it was the best day of his life. Miyagi pushed him into car sales, telling him that he must follow his passion. Daniel says his goal was to give his customers the same sense of excitement he had when he got his first car. Amanda warns him that they can't compete with that without the deal, but Daniel says if they don't sell to Cole, they might end up with nothing. She leaves and takes Louie with her so Daniel could be alone. He looks at a potted bonsai tree at the counter and remembers Miyagi teaching him how to cut it and smiles as he has an idea. In juvie, Robbie finds the three bullies waiting for him at his bed. The leader, Shawn, takes Robbie's pillow and walks away. A guard comes in, tells Robbie that Johnny will be visiting the next day. Johnny then goes to Sid's home and tells him his stepfather that he needs money for Miguel. Sid isn't impressed, and Johnny insists that Miguel doesn't deserve anything. His stepfather mocks him, and Johnny threatens to reveal Sid's affair with his secretary. Sid doesn't care about his reputation or as Johnny out, and Johnny leaves, taking a rare statue with him. After the car wash is over, Hawk and his fellow students come to Nathaniel, who has the money. Hawk holds Nathaniel while the other two take the money, and Hawk tells him that he's going to pay. That night, Daniel and Amanda meet with Cole and Anush. Cole says just business while gloating. Daniel tells him that they're rejecting his offer. Daniel's rival says that he sold to an exclusive deal with Diona, and Daniel says that they know all about it. Cole reveals that Anush told him. Anush says that Daniel offered him his job back. As Cole leaves, Daniel says that they've still got some moves. Amanda warns him that this plan better work because there's no turning back, and Daniel figures it has to. Anush is surprised to learn that it's not a sure thing. So, who we leave off with this time? Scott. So, Scott, what do you think? So, we get the assault of Nathaniel. We get, Daniel coming up with his plan that we don't know about yet. Anush basically backstabs Cole to go back to Daniel, thinking that he's got a sure thing, but it's really not. So some wheels are turning here.
Yeah, I mean, I could have gone without hearing the backstory why Daniel wanted to be a car salesman. I was like, I'm done with this. But, they had to tie it in with, like, when Miyagi gave me that car, he was like, I need to start giving cars to people to give them that same feeling and whoop ass on the side, obviously. But, the bullies are still making Robbie's life hell. And, like, the Sid thing, I think, was a nice little way to get Ed Asner back in the series for a cameo because he looks like near death if it hasn't already killed him already. And I did like at the very end that Johnny just snags like a rare statue. And another thing, when Johnny says he's going to call out Sid for his affair, he goes, "I'm going to hash brown me too you," which shows he still can't get quite the lingo down, but his heart's in the right place. And with the car wash with Hawk, with Cobra Kai, basically it's no longer like if they're heels anymore, to use wrestling vernacular. They're full-blown heels. They're no longer tweeners in my eyes, because they're just taking the hard-earned money. And with the Daniel thing, with them telling Cole basically to bugger off, this is basically, spoiler alert, and we're getting ahead, just a way to get Daniel to go to Japan. So, and which ties in for some of the better episodes in the series, in my opinion. So.
All right, Tim, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so Cobra Kai stealing the car wash money. First of all, huge dick move on their part, right? Especially beating the shit out of this little kid. Like, in his own words, he's like, "They beat the shit out of me." And he's like, "Oh,"
I think he said fucking shit out of me.
Yeah, they beat the fucking shit out of me.
Yeah, he's a little pissed.
He's like all bloodied and battered. I'm like, holy fuck. That was one of those, like, I laughed, not because it was, like, it wasn't outright funny. It was just, like, kind of the shock and the absurdity.
Yeah, it took you aback.
It really did. It took me aback. So, wow. Okay, shots fired in a big way. But beyond that, kind of cool to see some follow-up on the estranged stepfather, the rather aged Ed Asner, sure. And Johnny just picking off the vase on his way out is just tremendous. Like now he's gonna head back to that pawn shop and be like, well, what about this? So yes. I love it.
Yes. Shawn, what are your thoughts?
So I apologize for making Tim speechless in the last round of questions, and any of you represents me and not this podcast, so let's put that out there right now. I think the Daniel explanation on why he loves cars, and everything has a Miyagi quote, and, oh, my mom drove this. Oh, but when Miyagi gave me this, I love this, and I always wanted to put the same passion into people the same way what a hokey bunch of karate bullshit and Miyagi quotes that is. So that's very, very silly. But again, karate is king here, so I got to kind of let that go. I did like Ed Asner, shitting on karate to Johnny's face, made me laugh quite a bit. And I feel bad because Johnny's always getting the bad end of the stick. So there are times where you feel really bad about Johnny, but anytime you feel bad, he's going to do something stupid to ruin it. And then, like Tim said, the Cobra Kai taking that money and just beating the shit out of that kid. It really took, like, when he showed up at the door, and he literally
beat the fucking shit.
Yeah, well, no, when he shows up at the door and Sam, they beat the fucking shit out of me, and he just takes me aback because I feel like I'm Sam standing in the doorway and I want to jump back when he jumps out. It was really took me aback. So, and then finally, I liked the middle finger in the car deal. I thought that was pretty funny that they put that in there. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I think we had some problems when we were watching it about the whole car dealership having multiple manufacturers, like different car brands. I didn't think that was the way car dealerships work. You didn't sell.
But in the karate universe.
In the karate universe. Here we go. All right, so then, like you guys said, Dimitri and the other students go to the Russo home to see Daniel. Sam's the only one there, and Dimitri tells her that Cobra Kai took the money and beat the fucking shit out of Nathaniel. Well, Nathaniel says that. The next day, Johnny gives the receptionist at the hospital the money he's raised for Miguel, which I think he basically gave it to a nurse, which could never happen, first of all. And then he wants to, he doesn't want to give his name, but Carmen and Rosa are there, and they see him give the money. The surgeon is there. From behind, we see, she looks like a certain person. Johnny tells Rosa that he has somewhere to be, and she takes his hand and says that Miguel needs him, and asks Johnny to pray with them. And Johnny agrees to stay. At juvie, Robbie discovers that Bobby is his visitor, asks Robbie to give Johnny a little more time. Johnny doesn't show, and Robbie, who isn't surprised, walks away. Sam takes the students into the courtyard to train, saying that she's going to have to take up the reins because her father's too busy. She assures them that he won't find out because he's out of town. And then we go over to Tokyo, and Daniel meets with the board of Doyona. And we end the episode. So, Tim, what do you think of the closing moments of this one?
Wow. In the karate cinematic universe, where everything goes back to karate, of course, we must bring things full circle and take Daniel to his ancestral homeland. I know I reached there a little bit towards the end, but I don't think I'm that far off the mark, as we will see, heading into this next episode. So again, like everyone else has said, they just, the way that they end these episodes, even when you think you're ready to take a break, you're ready to set it down, I'm just going to watch one more. No, you find yourself watching 5 more. And then before you know it, you finish the season. You have to find out what's going to happen in Tokyo. And, the stuff with Miguel and the money and the nurse, sure, pretty unrealistic. But this, because it was a karate sponsored car wash, that's what makes this all work, I think, even though in the real world it could never happen.
Yep. Shawn, what are your thoughts on the closing moments of this episode?
So the only couple notes I'll add is Johnny makes a bad decision. Not a bad decision for him with Miguel, because the grandmother wants him to stay, but he blows off his own son, which, again, another bad dad move by Johnny, which seems to be an ongoing thing for him. So he blows off his own son for Miguel, which, again, Miguel is paralyzed. His other son's in jail. I guess you got to roll the dice and pick the best of both worlds of which one you want to deal with. And then, honestly, the end with Sam leading Miyagi-Do, which I hate, with a full passion of her leading that group of misfits. And then I did like the end, like Tim said, where Danny's going to Japan. I thought it was a great end, to Doyana International, and it leaves you hanging, because you know immediately when he goes to Japan where they're going to go with this, but how they got there was all in the car dealership and gets them over to Japan, so it makes you want to look forward to the next episode.
All right, Scott, what are your thoughts on this, closing thoughts on this episode?
We all knew that Johnny, if he had to choose between Miguel and Robbie, he was going to choose Miguel. It's been like that since season 1, when Robbie started coming around more. It just sucks, like, it had to be that, but it shows that, like, he's torn between two different people that he considers sons in his life. Sam taking the students to the backyard to train, I was okay with, because, like, Daniel doesn't really want to do it, and they need someone to stand up to the bullies that are beating the fucking shit out of these kids. So, we're good. And, when he was over in Tokyo, it brought back, I was like, oh, we're going to see some stuff from Karate Kid Part 2, which we'll get to in the next episode. But it was a good ending. And like Tim said, it's like, oh, well, I guess I'm just going to sit here the rest of the night and watch the show.
That's basically what it does to you. All right. So we move into to our final episode we're going to talk about tonight. This is season 3, episode number 4, The Right Path. So we pick up in Tokyo, where Daniel is sitting at a bar drinking, watches several businessmen share a drink, and remembers the presentation he gave to the board of Diona. The CEO tells Daniel that they've already made the decision, and it's about negative PR as well as sales. Afterwards, he calls Amanda, but avoids telling her about the bad news. Once he hangs up, he wonders what he's going to do. He looks at photos of the past when he was with Kimiko and Miyagi. The bartender notices, asks if Miyagi was a friend of his. Daniel says that Miyagi was the best friend he ever had. He then tells the bartender that Miyagi is no longer with them. The bartender says that in Japan, the dead still speak to them if they visit someone else. As the bartender walks away, Daniel sees an ad on TV for Okinawa and gets an idea. Back in the States, Kreese tells the students never underestimate their enemy and always stay one step ahead of them. He has them kick a potted bonsai tree off top of a post. The first 2 students fail, and then Hawk volunteers. He kicks the post, knocks it over, and the bonsai tree falls to the mat. Kreese congratulates him and tells the class that he didn't cheat, but did exactly what he was asked to do. He tells the class if they fight smart, they will always come out on top. At the hospital, Miguel gets a video from the class showing what Hawk did and boasting that Hawk is Cobra Kai's new best student. Disgusted and depressed, Miguel sits back, and a nurse notices. She asks him what's wrong. He points out that the surgery didn't work and wonders if he'll walk again. The nurse goes to get him something to eat. Outside the waiting room, on the phone, Johnny talks to Bobby and says that he's sorry for missing the meeting with Robbie. As Johnny hangs up, the nurse comes out, and Johnny comes over and asks how the surgery went. The nurse tells him that time will tell how successful it was and offers to take him to see Miguel. Johnny says that Miguel will need to be his family and walks off. All right, so Tim, we we finally get to Japan, which was teased the entire time. And now Miguel is post-surgery, and we see kind of Hawk trying to take his place as the top dog in Cobra Kai. So what do you think of the start of this episode?
Well, things did not go so well with the Diana presentation. There was a little bit of I don't know how to put this, all Japanese people must know each other vibe with the whole, he's in the bar and gets to talking about Mr. Miyagi and then sees the thing on TV about Okinawa. It's like, all right. This is one of those, again, coincidences would not really happen, but you just sort of hand wave it because Karate Cinematic Universe. I'm a little bit fuzzy on just sort of the passage of time in this episode. Like, Miguel has had the surgery and seemingly has had at least a little bit of time to recover, but are we talking like days, or has it been a week, 2 weeks? Like, sort of where is he at in terms of his attempted recovery? I don't know. Maybe they clarified that, and I was just, I get up and do things watching, 7 of these in a row, as I often do. So I might have just missed that, but it seemed like maybe they glossed over some things at the same time. But we know that this season, by the way, does not take place over that long of a stretch of time, because it's the beginning of the school year and the premiere, right? Mm-hmm. And by the end, it's like around Christmas time. I mean, the last episode tells us exactly the date. So
3 months, 4 months, maybe?
Yeah. So this is not a long stretch of time that we're dealing with. We know that Miguel was like in a coma for, what did they say, 2 weeks? So, I mean, he's been in the hospital for a minute. We're kind of ready to see him get out, even if he's not back on his feet, literally. But it's kind of like we're getting to that point where you want to see this wrapped up. But we're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, the trailer for the season kind of, gave away a lot. I almost kind of wish I didn't watch it before I watched the show.
True.
Yeah, it's up there with like how the Avengers kind of spoiled Hulk catching Iron Man. Spoilers for Avengers.
They're not going to kill this kid off. I mean, I guess they could, but it would turn it into a much darker show.
Yeah, it'd be kind of depressing.
Yeah, and at the same time, like, if you're not going to kill him, then you also just can't leave him in a coma indefinitely, because he's then effectively useless as a character.
Yes.
So it's sort of like, I mean, just a matter of time. And 4 episodes in, like, we've paid enough lip service probably to this, the fact of his very serious injuries in the fall that's running through my head now, much like Scott, I'm sure.
Yes. But before we get to Scott, Sean, what do you think of the opening of this episode?
I'm amused by Diona. They want to avoid bad PR from the high school fight all the way over in Japan. So in the KC universe, karate spreads its wings all the way over to Japan from the valley. So they don't want the bad PR. Tim brought up the everybody knows everybody thing. I actually put down the bartender wisdom, which is also a very tropey thing, whether it be in Japan or any other movie. So I put the bartender wisdom. I thought Hawk shitting on the overthinkers. I'm not going to tree out the pole. It's funny where he just kicked the post. And then I like how Kreese kind of said he didn't cheat. He did what I asked him to do, and theoretically he was right, even though the other ones are trying to do it the right way. Hawk took the way he should have took and just kicked the post over. And then the whole Okinawa thing and seeing that was just coincidence. And then the Miguel can't walk, so the nurse, I'll get you some cake. It feels better. So you're paralyzed and you can't walk and you can't feel anything, but cake will make you feel better. I was like, give me a break. So
we'll just turn you into a fat shit, Miguel.
We'll just turn you into a fat shit and do some stress eating.
Fat shit. We're doing a lot of stress eating this season, apparently.
A lot of stress eating. Karate causes stress eating.
It does. Scott, what do you think of the opening of this episode?
I mean, I enjoyed it, but like one thing that always gets me is like we love like Mr. Miyagi's and Daniel's relationship, and I always thought it was more grandfather, grandson, or even like father and son. But like Daniel talks to him, he's like he's the best friend he's ever had. Did Daniel not make any friends after winning the All Valley? Was he just some like loser that like just wandered around kicking people's ass when they try to become friends? Like he's the best friend I ever had. It's like, did you like not make any friends after high school before you met your wife or anything?
Well, karate wasn't a part of his life during that stretch of time, so therefore it does not matter. It's only the periods of his life when he was, actively involved in karate, which, was the mid '80s and I guess the present.
Yeah, I mean I guess that's when he can make friends again. But with like the video of like Hawk and Kreese, like it's showing like a thing where like not to do the correct way, do it like Kreese is saying like you don't always have to do it the correct way. You can always go for a shortcut with leading his team, leading his people, and you'll see that. And with Miguel, I ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan. He's going to get him back. I just felt that they stretched this out way too long. This went like 2 episodes longer than it had to be, which we'll get to that.
Yep. All right. So continue on. Daniel takes a flight to Okinawa and takes a taxi to Tomi Village and remembers the past when he went there with Miyagi. He remembers Kumiko in particular. When they arrive, Daniel discovers the village has modernized and now there's a mall. Robbie and the other juvies that are now at a community center serving food for the homeless. Johnny comes up and approaches his son, saying that he respects Robbie for doing this service so he can try to get out early. He notices Robbie has a black eye and asks if he's still fighting. Robbie tells him not to lecture him about starting fights. Johnny tries to admit that he screws up, but Robbie tells him that having his back means nothing. Lynn is also there and yells at Johnny to move along. She recognizes Johnny and tells him not to eat her soup. When Johnny tells Robbie that he's not leaving until they talk, Robbie tells him he's not going to working and then gives Johnny a bowl of soup. Back at the high school cafeteria, Dimitri shows an earth science presentation to the other students in his group. Yasmin is one of them and points out that they don't have to talk outside of class. Dimitri tells her that his popularity is on the rise and hers is going down and flirts while flirting with her. Moon's also part of the group, and she snickers. Dimitri then shows him a model of what the valley looked like in prehistoric times, and the girls are impressed. Hawk's at a table with his fellow students, sees Dimitri with the girls. He then throws a soccer ball into the diorama, comes over and apologizes. Dimitri doesn't believe him and tells him it took him 3 weeks to build it. Hawk walks off and impressed. Sam then comes over to Dimitri goes after Hawk and taunts him over his bedwetting. Hawk tells Dimitri that he got lucky with one kick. Sam comes over, tells Hawk to back off. The principal, I guess, is walking by, and Hawk tells Sam to sleep around with someone new and break his heart. She shoves him, and Black comes over and assumes Sam is to blame for the violence. Hawk claims that Sam triggered her and saying that he broke the diorama by accident. The counselor takes Hawk's side and walks away. Hawk tells him that no space is safe. So, Shawn, we got some more high school drama going on here. As also Daniel, is quite disappointed to learn that, this place has changed in the last, 35, 40 years. That never happens anywhere.
Yeah, very industrialized in Okinawa. So, yeah, I know Daniel was shocked to see that. He was hoping to go to 85 Okinawa, where it was nothing but villages and bamboo. But, yeah, very industrialized.
I believe you have to pay extra for that.
Yeah, you have to pay extra for that. So Robbie and Johnny, again, the bad relationship continues. I was laughing at the woman hitting on Johnny. That was pretty funny. Hawk destroying Dimitri's Lego. Very typical kind of bully, whatever, with Dimitri here. With the popular girl kind of feeling sorry for him in the end, even though she kind of not showing she is. I will say the adult supervision on this show absolutely sucks. It's terrible. This female teacher I wrote can fuck off. She's like the most annoying. She's more annoying than Sam, and I hate her, and I just want to punch her in the face. She's terrible. How does it, yeah, so yeah, high school BS, Robbie and Johnny strife, and Daniel going to industrialize Okinawa. That's kind of how I would probably summarize this segment.
Mm-hmm. All right, Scott.
Like, like LaRusso being like, oh, stuff's changed. Like, why don't you go back to your hometown in New Jersey and see how shit's changed, moron? But like, and then I love that there's only one homeless lady and she has the hots for Johnny because she's had the hots for him since season 1. And I just love how she always flirts with him and everything. And Johnny gave her the soup, and then he talks with Robbie, who wants nothing to do with him for good riddance. He said he was going to come visit him, and he never showed up to go, hang out with Miguel and his family because he's trying to bang Miguel's mom. So what do you expect? And Dimitri, I do like how he's becoming cooler and becoming more confident. And that's what it is. And Yasmin is like, what the hell's going on here? I go away for a summer, and this whole world changes. Hawk's just a piece of shit. I mean, that's what it boils down to. And I do love how he tells the one principal / guidance counselor / third period teacher, she does it all, that Sam triggered her and that was in a safe space. And then when she walks away, Hawk tells them that no safe space is safe, which is like, you were just being a little bitch right there. I just want his ass kicked. Okay. That's just what I want.
Sam triggers everybody. It's all her fault.
I could just see Shawn getting visibly angry while watching, these episodes.
That teacher made me very angry, by the way. She was terrible.
All right, Tim, what are your thoughts on this section?
Throw her off a balcony. Yeah, the soup kitchen scene is kind of fun with Johnny trying to make amends. But what can he do, really? Like, he was definitely between a rock and a hard place with basically his 2 sons and choosing Miguel over Robbie, kind of the story of Robbie's life. But he's going to take it especially hard given his current circumstances. And we get, of course, the humor with the bag lady hitting on him. Hawk is totally an asshole, certainly. But Dimitri sucks. So, I mean, I have to go with the asshole who sucks and is using the school's own language and policies against them as a true villain would. So, enjoyed that. You know who I'm missing? You know who I noticed I'm missing? A presence that I'm missing in this season is Aisha. Yes. Who is no longer on the show. And we do get a line. I guess it went back to that premiere. There was kind of a throwaway line between the two. What are their names? Yasmin and Moon?
Moon.
Yeah.
Some of these named characters who are on the show but kind of not really on the show are a little bit confusing to me. But 2 of them were talking and mentioned that she had moved away, I believe.
Her parents sent her to private school.
Okay, yeah. Parents sent her
after everything that went
her mom Tootie sent her to private school.
Tootie was a very smart mom.
Yeah, smartest.
Get her the hell out of the KCU.
But you sort of hate to see that, right, with these shows where shit like that happens. I mean, I have no idea the real reason she's gone, but where somebody just gets like the off-screen, they're written out, and maybe a throwaway line addressing it, but they don't really get a proper send-off or anything.
Stingray.
It's too bad. Stingray, oh my god.
Yes.
No, they wrote him off in the first episode, saying he's no longer allowed to be within 500 feet of children.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that tracks, right? But with Aisha, I mean, it would just be interesting to see where she lands with, just in terms of her allegiances and all the shifting loyalties and things of that nature, especially as this season really matures. So, I found myself kind of wishing she was still around to just add something to all of this. And
she would have been a tweener probably.
Yeah. I mean, just based on the fact that she's similar to Miguel and having like a pretty strong attachment to Johnny, but I don't think she'd be down with all this Kreese bullshit.
Yeah.
But obviously we're building to another big explosion here with stuff with Hawk being the total antagonist and just continues to dick around with these kids.
Yes, stuff is bubbling up, and something's gonna come to a boil, so to speak.
Well, especially after they trimmed the fat and got rid of like the little kids, which is referred to as a addition by subtraction, which we talked about earlier.
All right, so Daniel walks through the mall and meets with a shopkeeper who has a lot of information. She tells him that when the crops died, they turned to a new economy, retail. The villagers were happy to have jobs. The local children perform a kata for the crowd, and Kumiko is leading them. Daniel comes over and watches, remembers the two of them together as teenagers. Once the children finish performing, Kumiko sees Daniel in the crowd and recognizes him. Back in the States, Lynn joins Johnny at the table where he's eating soup. She flirts with him, and Johnny sees Robbie carrying a pot to give Lynn his soup and goes over to gives it to her and goes over to offer to help. Robbie refuses, but Johnny insists. Once they're done, Robbie points out that Johnny hadn't visited him in the last month. He apologizes, but says something happened at the hospital. Robbie figures that Johnny chose Miguel over him again and doesn't believe when Johnny says that he's trying to make things right. When Johnny takes Robbie's arm to try to stop him from turning away, Robbie knocks over the pot, spills the soup everywhere. He tells Johnny he doesn't need him anymore. The guard comes over to escort Johnny out. Robbie's bullies chuckle, and he glares at them before he cleans up. At the school, Dimitri and Sam are outside in gym class for soccer, along with the other Miyagi-Do students. Hawk and the former Cobra Kais come over, fellow Cobra Kais. Dimitri tells Sam that he wishes they could do something, and Sam says that they can, points out that black isn't anywhere near, and soccer involves physical contact. The two teams take the field, and soon the Miyagi-Do students are knocking down the Cobra Kai. Stepping on them, Hawk scores a goal and winks at Moon, one of the cheerleaders, and she ignores him and nudges her current boyfriend reassuringly. Dimitri notices and tells Hawk that Moon loved Hawk, but he ruined a good thing he had with the hottest girl in school. He then trips Hawk and walks off before the coach can do anything. The two teams keep playing and hitting each other. The coach finally sends everyone to the principal's office. So we get a little a callback to the first Karate Kid with some some violence on the soccer field. So Scott, what do you think of we see we're about to have Daniel and Kumiko reunited, as we got a little more Robbie Johnny drama, and then the teams try to be Miyagi-Do tries to be a little creative in trying to get back at Cobra Kai without getting in trouble.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of enjoyed the soccer scenes just because of how ridiculous it was. Like, it just got out of control real quick. They're not even pretending to try to do any soccer moves. They're just kicking the shit out of each other. I mean, I can't remember who it was, but they turn around and just kick the ball right in their other person's face. So I was like laughing the whole time at like just how absurd, and like it got out of control real quick. Now, to be honest with you guys, I have only seen Karate Kid Part 2 maybe handful of times, and the most recently was like 20 years ago. So I'm glad they showed I'm not sure if they did it here, but they did like flashback scenes to show where, like, oh, this is why this person is important, with like, that was basically his love interest in episode 2, and I mean in the second movie. So it was nice to see him and her, and like they're still kind of flirting a little bit. So I was like, damn, are we gonna have where LaRusso cheats on his wife? Because that'll open the door for Shawn real quick. But
can hope.
Wow.
But like, yeah, just seeing all that stuff is setting the table for it. We're gonna see coming up.
Yeah. Kumiko, the actress plays her, looks fantastic. Still, Tim, what do you think of this section of this episode?
I like the soccer. I like the soccer scene, and to be honest with you, I didn't even make that connection back to the first movie. I just forgot about the soccer violence in the Karate Kid until you brought it up. So that's pretty cool. It's just more of a subtle callback, which this show is. They tend to go big with these callbacks. Like, you get these sort of sweeping montages and just scenes being inserted as flashbacks, essentially, from other movies. And that's what we see with the Okinawa stuff. With apologies, I guess, to Peter Winston, I think seeing the Karate Kid Part 2 once is far too many times. Because I think that might be a worse movie than Karate Kid 3. I know that is a take. That is a potentially a scorcher
right there, man. Wow.
That might be a scorcher, but here's the thing, like 3 is so stupid and so bad, but it's kind of entertaining crap at the same time. It's like a bad movie that doesn't really know how bad it is, but still is like not taking itself too seriously, But Part 2 is just so boring. Like just long stretches of that movie where nothing is going on. There's like more like the karate-less kid. It just sucks. Like it's just a shitty movie. And we're like being reminded of this shitty movie at multiple points throughout the episode. And of course, Kimiko, the love interest, is going to return because Japan is such a small place, I guess. I don't know. Like, so I know that that's the show. Like, it's stupid to kind of complain about this stuff, but at the same time, it did kind of get on my nerves, I guess. Just because it might not have gotten on my nerves if not for the fact that Karate Kid 2 is just a stupid bad movie.
All right. Shawn, what do you think of this part?
So the Robbie, Johnny stuff, more of the same, terrible relationship. Robbie calls him out on Miguel being more important, which is right. So I think Robbie has every right to feel the way he does. You made a comment about Kimiko looking good. How did Dan even recognize her? Because the visual of her at the start where she's young to where she's at now, it looks like a totally different actress. I don't think they look anything alike, so I don't know how he even recognized her, whereas he looks almost exactly the same. You can tell he's Danny LaRusso. I get what Tim's saying a little bit about Karate Kid, but people gave me shit for hating Wonder Woman 84, so I'm not going to give Tim shit for hating Karate Kid 2 because Wonder Woman 84 is a much worse movie than that. But to put it in the context, though, a few people told me that you have to understand what universe you're in with Wonder Woman 84 and what you're looking for. So I'm going to kind of use that own advice from somebody else who's on that show with this one. Yes, is Karate Kid 2 a bad movie? Yes, but in the context of the show, you almost have to have that storyline integrated into the show because it is part of the universe, KCU universe.
Oh yeah. I mean, point taken. Absolutely. I just it just bothers me that the way that they present it like makes it seem like Karate Kid 2 is actually a good movie. I guess is my problem. Like,
well, actually, I almost feel like what happens in this universe, in this show, is better than what happens in Karate Kid 2, to be honest with you. But I mean, we'll talk about that later. But I don't mind acknowledging just the facts of what has happened in this world, sure. But I don't know, the way they present it with like such reverence is just like, come on, this is just a dog shit movie that you're pretending is not a dog shit movie. The last thing I'll add was the soccer throwdown. Andy, I appreciate you calling it the throwback Karate Kid because I had the same thing. Even going back to how it all started with Johnny taking was it when they were on the beach with the ball and kicking the ball with his knee. So really good callback there with the soccer throwdown. I'm glad you called that out because I thought the same thing. So
yeah, it was Bobby actually that takes out Daniel on the soccer field.
Yes,
from what I can remember.
Yes.
All right. So back in Okinawa, Daniel and Kimiko go to a tea shop, and she talks about what happened after he left. She had joined a dance company and traveled around the world, started teaching, and after she moved back to Okinawa after her mother had died. Kimiko talks about her mother wanted her to get married, but she stayed a free agent. She knows that there were other guys, but none of them fought to the death for her. Daniel said, it feels he hasn't seen her for 5 minutes, but it's been 30 years. Kimiko asks why he came back. He says that he got his dream, but so many people have been looking for him for answers that he doesn't have any. She talks about how she felt out of control once, and Daniel says that he doesn't have any of the answers like Miyagi did at his age, which is he was there. Kimiko says that she can make it happen. Back in the States, Johnny goes to a bar to drink. Kreese joins him, suggests they talk like adults. A policeman walks past and orders a chicken sandwich to go. The bartender says It'll take 3 minutes, and that's how much time Johnny gives Kreese to state his case. Kreese admits that he probably put Johnny in a bad place that he's in. And he says he never wanted to hurt him. He always just wanted to help. Kreese tells Johnny that he brought back Cobra Kai and Kreese to life, and then led the kids down the right path, ignoring Kreese's warnings. He tells Johnny that it's time for him to come home, and he'll always be Johnny's teacher, and the way of the fist is the only way to get Johnny out of his funk. He wants Johnny to teach his students, and when Miguel comes back, it'll help him get back to his feet. Johnny tells Kreese not to go anywhere near Miguel or his family. The bartender finishes the sandwich. Kreese figures it's time for him to go. He pays his tab and tells Johnny to think about what he said, and then he leaves. In the school hallway outside the principal's office, the two groups of students glare at each other. Hawk comes out for his meeting, and she tells that all the Cobra Kai students are free to go. She then tells the Miyagi-Do students that they'll be receiving rehabilitation detention, and as Sam says it's bullshit. She gets an extra weekend, and Sam storms off. Back in Tomy, Kimiko takes Daniel to the house that Yuki left her and says that she found what he was looking for. He says that Miyagi wrote love letters to her mother and reads one. Daniel looks through the letters and finds one. Kimiko says it was written the week Miyagi died. Kimiko reads it at Daniel's request. In it, he apologizes for it being so long since he last written. He explains that he's best in the hospital, but there's nothing to do but think about family and where he's been and where he's going. In the letter, Miyagi says that he got lost until he met Daniel, and Daniel's loyalty and love for those around him was a guiding light, and he's proud of the man Daniel became. Kimiko goes on to say that Miyagi wrote that Daniel passed on what he learned to Sam. Miyagi felt like he was a grandfather to Sam, and it is people that guide them back. Kimiko finishes the letter, and Daniel thanks Miyagi wherever he is, and thanks Kimiko, and Kimiko hands him the letter. So, Tim, we get the the ramifications of the soccer fight. We get Kreese trying to state his case to Johnny to come home, and we learn some backstory on Miyagi right before his death. So, what do you think of this section?
All right, what the Okinawa exchange with Kimiko reading the letters, and this is what Miyagi said, and here's how he really felt about you. You know what that felt like to me was when Carrie Fisher died, but they clearly still needed her for that last Star Wars movie. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of halfway through the movie turned into, well, this is a scene that Princess Leia is supposed to be in, but since she literally can't be, we're going to have this, I forget the character's name, this alien lady stand in and say this is what Princess Leia would have wanted or would have done and how she feels and what we're going to do. Like, it's kind of the same thing with Pat Morita no longer being with us, sadly. They're just sort of putting his words into another character's mouth. And, I mean, I get it. It can't be helped. It's just sort of, it felt a little like it went on a bit much, right? Like, it's one thing if you actually have him saying this and imparting this wisdom. It's quite another when it's just somebody reciting it from a letter, right? It just felt kind of info dumpy. So, I don't know. I wasn't totally on board with that. Back in the States, I guess, we've got Johnny hitting the bar. We see Kreese ramping up the tough love, basically learning that he is pushing Johnny away in an attempt to essentially reel him back in. So he's like playing the long con there. But Johnny not taking that bait, not just yet anyway. So this is going to continue to play out. And once again, I want to just watch the next episode.
Mm-hmm. All right, Sean?
So Kimiko never married, obviously due to her long love for Daniel. And I think someone brought up the flirting, and I'm very upset that Daniel is flirting with this woman over the quite milfy hot Amanda, and he should be ashamed of himself. And how would Amanda feel with Danny spending time with his ex? I would think that would be a problem, but Daniel apparently has no problem doing it. Father figure Kreese wants Johnny back, does this whole speech about way of the fist. So Nice little scene there. And then the annoying teacher letting Kai go makes the teacher even more annoying, even though it was funny to watch Sam act like a big baby and storm off and Dimitri deny that he knew her. I enjoyed that. And then I couldn't help but laugh at the Miyagi love letters that praise Daniel. It's like, okay, I flew all the way to Japan to get this wisdom of Miyagi, but in his love letter on his deathbed, he's telling everyone how much he loves me.
Right.
Okay,
you put it better than I did. Yeah.
This was so ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous.
By the way, I really loved you. Hey, have I mentioned Daniel lately?
It's so
All right. Scott, what do you think of this part?
I guess I'm a sap because I enjoyed that part with the love letter. I'm sorry, I'm not as heartless as Shawn.
Well, you have a heart, unlike some other people.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I would just I thought about it the sexting part of it. Kukimo was like, I'm not reading this out loud. No one needs to read this shit. So she just skipped that stuff and then told the story about Danielson. But when Sam was arguing about the
just read the parts that are about me.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to hear about the parts of I'm caressing your bosom or something. It's like
better.
Yeah.
So stupid. Sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
But I did like when Sam's arguing with the principal lady and she's like, you get detention, and she hits the door and she's like, you get detention again, and in my mind I was like, make it 2, and then she's like, make it 4. Just I don't know, I'm just stupid like that, so I was just laughing to myself oh, just give all the detention. But I thought that was a good part, and I think Tim really did explain it with the Carrie Fisher with Star Wars, but I thought it was going to be when they had to bring Han Solo back to, quote unquote, save Kylo Ren and not not Carrie Fisher because she was dead. But I thought that was a good thing where they had to have some exposition with that.
Yeah, I was getting a little Breakfast Club vibe. It was just not even close, dick. With the more detention. All right, so back to so closing out this episode in the hospital room, Miguel tries to reach his phone, but he can't. Johnny comes in, pushes across him, tells Miguel to get the phone. Miguel says that he can't walk. Johnny tells him that words are meaningless. It's time for him to get out of bed. He tells Miguel that if he wants something, he's got to go do it, whatever it takes. And Johnny will be there right next to him because he will always be Miguel's teacher. He tells him to get the phone. Miguel calls him sensei and agrees. Miguel gets up and then falls down. In juvie, Robbie finds the bullies waiting for him. The leader, Shawn, mocks the exchange between Robbie and Johnny and tells Robbie that now he has nothing. Robbie looks at the torn up papers on his bed. A guard comes in and tells them all to get back to their bunks. He then tells Robbie that he has a visitor. It's Kreese, who greets him Robbie as son. Daniel and Kumiko go to the bar at the airport, and Daniel offers a toast to Kumiko for the letters. Kumiko says that Yuki always told her to put the good out in the world and it would come back to her. Daniel admits that he could use a little good, and Kumiko tells him that things will work out with his business. And then Chosen comes in, and Daniel remembers how he and Chosen fought to the death in Tomy, or didn't really fight to the death, but you know what I mean. And that closes our episode with bringing back the bad guy from Karate Kid Part 2. So, Shawn, what do you think of the ending of this one?
I like tough love Johnny with Miguel, and even though it seems wrong, I laughed when he fell out of the bed because that seemed kind of typical. It felt wrong to laugh, but I also thought it was meant to be comical, so I didn't feel really that bad about myself about it, even though I probably should have. I thought Kreese going after Robbie made sense. He's been dejected by his sensei. He's been dejected by his father. Kreese is going to go in for the kill. If he can't have the dad, he's going after Robbie, so it makes sense. And then Chosen showing up at the end as a cliffhanger again makes you want to see what happens in the next episode, and he still looks like a prick. So I was all in on this, even though Karate Kid 2 sucks. The villain that literally tried to kill Daniel and his girlfriend shows up and has me hooked to look at the next episode.
All right, Scott, what do you think of the ending?
Yeah, I'm gonna work in reverse. With Chosen coming, like I said, I don't really remember Karate Kid Part 2, but Chosen comes in and looks pissed. He's been waiting for 30 years to whoop that ass. So, and that's where we're left off. It's oh shit, now all right, let's just set everything back for 30 minutes. I'm going to do it. And Kreese, getting Robbie, which is something I thought was going to happen in season 2 because, Robbie was wanting to bring the fight to Cobra Kai and was starting to let his anger dictate what he was doing and not use defense. So it's going to be nice to see if Kreese is able to get Robbie on his side. Maybe offer him some protection. And, the sense, like Shawn said, that was hilarious when Johnny's yelling at Miguel to get the phone and he just falls out of bed on his face. And I laughed too, Shawn. So, maybe I'm not fully a great person, obviously, but yeah, we're there.
You have a semi-heart. I have none, apparently. So.
All right, Tim, what do you think of the end of this one?
I sometimes have a heart. I enjoyed the gallows humor also. Do think it was totally intentional. The whole issue with Chosen, this show does a weird thing where, they acknowledge that 1984 was a long time ago, but they don't really treat it like it's really as long a time ago as it really was. That's, over 35 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. Was when we had, the All Valley tournament, and then Karate Kid Part 2, picks up right after that. I know the movie was a couple years later, 1986 probably, but it's still set, the same year as that first movie. It takes place literally right after the ending of Karate Kid 1. So it's just weird how that much time has passed, and yet everybody is still basically where we left them in 1984. Yes, they've gotten older. They've maybe done something that we hear about in the interim, but they've all ended up back where they started, which is just propelling my headcanon, my personal theory that this is a universe with a karate god secretly controlling events and pulling puppet strings. And it has a sick sense of humor.
So karate Thanos out in the universe.
Yeah, karate Thanos. It's sort of a trickster god.
I hope we get a crossover with Mortal Kombat with Raiden and Liu Kang. I don't know how we'll figure that out, but
maybe we'll get virtual Miyagi like we got Mandalorian Luke Skywalker.
Exactly.
Or like they ran Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One.
Yes.
Mortal Kombat movie Raiden. Wasn't he played by Christopher Lambert?
Lambert
from
Highlander.
Yes. Yeah. He had kind of a sick sense of humor, I feel like, in those movies.
Well, are they part of the KCU? I don't know.
I think we might have to include them.
We might have to have a crossover.
Well, it's the multiverse of the KCU, I think.
It's one long story thread like the Marvel Universe.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're talking.
I'm going to start dueling karate dojos. So, all right, we'll say that Raiden is in charge of this universe, which kind of helps smooth over some of these conveniences for me.
Well, don't forget Shang-Chi will be joining as well.
Oh, yes. Stealing souls and whatnot. Shang-Chi. I thought you were talking about Shang Tsung from.
No, I'm talking about Shang-Chi or whatever.
Different Shang.
I like how we're fantasy booking Karate Kid universe.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This is rapidly spiraling in odd directions.
Andy, take control fast.
Well, the point is, my point. I do have a point. I'm not losing it this time. All of these conveniences were starting to pile up. So I just needed something to kind of rationalize it away. So I settled on Karate God. My eyes admittedly glazed over when Chosen came back. Because again, it's just one of those, all right, another one of these people who hasn't moved or done anything for 35 years and was in a bad movie. So I was just sort of like mentally preparing for, we got to do this in the next episode, I guess. All right, fine. So not totally on board with this Okinawa story, if you can tell.
Yeah. Well, thank you for finishing your thoughts, despite Sean's best efforts there.
I like how it's always my fault.
Usually
yeah, I'll take the blame. I introduced Mortal Kombat and
real quick. I mean, and they know this stuff is like catnip to me, so I don't blame them for
Scott, thank you for defending me against this tyrant.
This tyrant.
I am.
Talk about bodyguards. We got the podcast tyrant.
I am the M. Bison of this podcast. All right. Well, on that note, a Street Fighter 2 reference. We're going to come to a close on this part 2 of Cobra Kai Season 2. And, we left off with the right path, and Daniel is still at Okinawa. Robbie's still in juvie. Sam is still whatever she is, not enough Amanda LaRusso for Sean's good. Anybody else is good. But we're going to find out in our next episode where the mid part, the real meat of this season, what happens there. So stick around. In our next episode, we will cover episodes 5, 6, and 7 of season 3. So I want to say a big thank you to Shawn Kidd, Scott Shifflett, and Tim Capel for once again getting together and talking about Cobra Kai. I'm Andy Atherton. We'll see you on part 3 of Cobra Kai season 3.